Hey everyone, summer is coming, so that means it's time to get out and have some fun. Cleveland Recreation invites you to play by registering for any of our baseball, swimming, and junior golf programs. Baseball programs are available for youths ages 4 through 19. The basic fundamentals of the game are taught, and youths progress through various levels, ultimately participating in the Connie Mack League. If you would rather create a project of your own or express yourself through performing and visual arts, the Division of Recreation offers arts, crafts, ceramic programs, and show wagon performances. So come celebrate summer fun. Don't miss out on the free lunch program, summer camp, soapbox derby racing, and a host of other special events. You may even have the opportunity to celebrate an Indians victory in person at Progressive Field. Don't let summer pass you by. Visit one of our 20 recreation centers, 25 supervised playgrounds, 19 indoor pools, and 22 outdoor pools, and have yourself the best summer ever in the city of Cleveland. This is a Closer Look, RNC 2016 Special Edition, with your host, Valarie McCall, Chief of Government and International Affairs for the City of Cleveland.
So David Gilbert, President and CEO of the 2016 Host Committee, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with us here at TV20 and talk about all the great, exciting things that's happening. So let's just jump right in there. David, tell us, convention, summer 2016, why is this exciting for Cleveland?
In so many ways. I think there are so many significant benefits to our community for hosting this convention. I mean, one, it's serving as an accelerant for wonderful projects in our community that are going to live for decades, like Public Square and the Hilton Hotel and airport renovations, to make sure they got done and got done in time for the convention. I think it's also a great opportunity economically. It's estimated probably $250 million will be spent in our community during the week of and in the lead up to the convention, all new dollars pumped into our community, a lot of jobs associated with that. But I think most importantly, the eyes of the world are going to be on us. And really, this is absolutely the largest event in the world that we could host from a media standpoint. It's said that we'll have about 15,000 credentialed media, more media than any other event in the world outside the Olympics. And so the chance to show off who we are, to have the world look under the hood, and we know they're going to like what they see.
And you mentioned the 15,000 credentialed media, and I've even heard that, you know, this is probably one of the most popular summer events going on. We may even have a little bit more than that. But there are other people coming as well, right? There are delegates, there are people coming in, people who just want to see what's happening here. You
Absolutely.
Want to talk about that a little?
I mean, there's an estimated 50,000 people that will officially come as part of the convention. Not only those media, but as you said, Val, delegates, associate delegates, security folks, a lot of other organizations that are here that are connected to the convention. And it's estimated, we think it could be up to another 10,000 people that are political tourists or others that just come and want to be around it, want to kind of just be around the aura of it, even though they're not officially connected with the convention.
I was telling someone, there's never been, since I've been in this official capacity, a time when I can turn on the Sunday TV station and every pundit, every other word is Cleveland, 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 Cleveland. And for us, that's very exciting because that's earned media, that's recognition. Tell us how that's translating to the local side of things here in Cleveland.
Well, I think there's two things. We've tried really hard, and this is more related to Destination Cleveland, and we've tried very hard to look at long-term changing that narrative of Cleveland. We all know over the past number of decades, Cleveland's taken a lot of hits in its in how people talk about old jokes, things from now
even
40 years ago.
Perceive it.
Absolutely. And so I think that this convention gives an amazing opportunity to change the narrative. So these 15,000 people, they will be here to talk about the convention, but they will also talk about Cleveland as the backdrop to that.
Right.
But extending that with sort of the craziness of this political season, it's actually been a great thing for Cleveland that in this convention has really become synonymous with the word Cleveland. So as you say, every national media outlet every day is talking about that road to Cleveland. And while that in and of itself may not change that narrative, what it does do is it makes us more relevant. When
true.
Cleveland is on the media and the national media every day talking about one of the largest events in the world, that means something. And then you said something, Val, that's critically important. I think also another huge benefit of this is it's helping us get over our own lack of self-confidence as a community. You know, we were chosen for this. It didn't happen by accident. It was a great community effort by a lot of people. You obviously a huge part of that to have them choose Cleveland over a lot of other great cities. And it didn't happen by accident.
Right.
And so I think Clevelanders need to be proud of that. And we're hearing that a lot, that people, whether it's Democrat or Republican or East Side, West Side, take your pick, doesn't matter. They're proud of the fact that we were chosen to host this event.
Which is a good thing. And let's piggyback off that a little bit. 1936 was the last time we hosted a convention. And this is strictly coincidence, because I've told people, as hard as we worked, this was a coincidence.
Yeah.
But also in 1936, you know, the Republican National Convention was here in Cleveland. The Democratic Convention was in Philadelphia. Fast forward to 2016, both cities again. That's historical in so many ways. But why is it important to Cleveland in particular?
Well, I think that it seems now there's you could take a bucket of 3 different types of cities who are looking at bidding on this. You've got large cities like New York and others that bid, and Philadelphia may fall in this a little bit, where in some ways it's just a big convention. Yeah. I think you have some cities like Charlotte and Tampa who hosted last time, and I think what they're trying to project to the world is they've now made it. Right. They were smaller cities that are growing. I think cities like Cleveland, like our city, we're trying to show the world that we know we're great, and we've always known we're great. You haven't seen it for a while.
We want to show it to you.
It's exactly right. And I think this will give us that opportunity.
And I've told people several times that if you look at the cities that have hosted the conventions, just of recent, right? We use throughout Charlotte and Denver on the Democratic side, or Tampa, or the Twin Cities. They have become destinations for conventions. I think those particular cities, I've gone back several times, was just in Charlotte a couple of weeks ago for a convention. They really have gone to the next level. Talk about a little bit of how this will help Cleveland in terms of moving us up in the tier ranking, as you always call it, for the, you know, destinations and conventions in the future. It's not just about now; it's about the future. Right?
And you hit the nail on the head. This is about Cleveland's future, not just about that week. And so I think one of the biggest benefits we're going to see is a continued enormous growth in travel and tourism, particularly with the convention on the meeting convention side. We now have the beautiful new convention center and all these new hotels downtown. So I think it does a couple things. A, it gets meeting planners, when they know that Cleveland has hosted this, there's nothing we can't host. Right. And so it really makes us more relevant.
Which is very important.
Yes. And we're already seeing huge benefits in that. And you look at all this growth, what it means is jobs. So think of all the new hotels that just opened.
Absolutely.
Think of it is jobs. So the more these hotels and the convention center, they're open, we're going to keep filling them. We're going to bring more business in good measure because of this convention, and it's going to keep those jobs and create more.
And not to stay on hotels, but I do think it's important, because I think we were talking about this a couple years ago, sitting as one of your board members of Destination Cleveland, and we were talking about how now tourism is an industry. Yes. And so for Cleveland to host this magnitude of a convention here locally, I mean, let's just talk about that a little bit, about why that is important. I think you may have touched on it, but just a little deeper on that.
Well, and you hit it very cleanly, that it is an industry. And it is actually the 4th largest employer in Cuyahoga County, if you go by SIC codes that the government uses, is travel and tourism. And it's not only an industry, it's now a growth industry. Each of the last 2 years, the number of visitors that have come to Cleveland for a leisure or business trip, we do this big research study every year, is grown a little over 4% each year. Nationally, it's at under 2%, and statewide, just over 2%. So we are not only growing as a tourism destination and a meeting convention destination, we're a growth industry. And so if you look at now, new jobs are being created in Cleveland. a large chunk of those are being created from this industry.
I had a chance to interview Jeff Larson, who's the president and CEO on the Committee on Arrangements about a month or so ago on location there at their offices, which is really, really cool because it's all themed and it's Cleveland themed. And we also talked about the history of conventions. There's a difference between a Committee on Arrangements and then the host committee. Can you just maybe distinguish a little bit more in terms of the role of the host committee? I mean, you have a really major important part of this convention and why that's so important, and maybe a little bit about your board and co-chairs.
So by law, when a convention is awarded to a city, it's a contract between the political party and a nonprofit, apolitical host committee that's set up for the express purpose of fulfilling the obligations of the community that they set in their bid. So the best way to look about it and think about it is there are two organizations that work together. The Committee on Arrangements runs the political side. The host committee runs the community side and logistics side. And what's important about the host committee is we set up this 501c3, but it's made up of the community.
Absolutely.
So you have the city and the county and all kinds of civic organizations,
GCP.
Corporations. Yep, they're all at the table. So we sit down, we look at all the things we have to do, whether it's raising money or volunteers or safety and security. Everybody takes the piece, or beautification, and everybody takes the piece that or multiple people dive in. Beautification is a great example. So you look at all the things that have been done. Some of it was under the purview of the city, because that's what the city has to do. Downtown Cleveland Alliance, some things that aren't in the city's purview, but they've taken it on. We've gone out and found a lot of donations for things and organizing community cleanups. So it's just, it's really been cool to see how many people have been working together, have been pitching in to make all these things happen. And that's what the host committee is.
Right. And we've talked about this before in terms of the effort. Last week, the city, as you know, announced and did an update on the city's preparedness from the safety security side. And it's so many moving parts, as you know. Not only do we work closely with the host committee, which we're part of, but the Committee on Arrangements, but also Secret Service and the CPD, Cleveland Police Department side of this. And it's not an easy thing to put on. And as we were talking about it, we were saying, this is really an exciting time for Cleveland. And I don't want that to get lost in translation. And I've told people say, oh, it's got to be busy. You got to be, stressed. No, this is exciting.
Yeah.
The last time we hosted this was 1936, right? So
I mean, this is a once in a probably multiple generation opportunity for our community. And I think we want to tell people, hey, if you want to come downtown, I liken it to the nights when the Cavs are in the finals.
Absolutely.
A lot of people just hang out, even if you don't have a ticket in the arena. You just want to be around it. You want to be in a restaurant up the street watching. I think the convention is going to be a little like that. There's just going to be an electricity here. History is being made in our community. But even if the average Clevelander doesn't have a chance to come down and actually be part of it, we should all be proud that history is being made in our city. Yep.
Absolutely. And we talk about, you've heard the mayor say this all the time, downtown is a neighborhood as well. So it's not that we're not doing things throughout the city of Cleveland, but if you think about the city of Cleveland with our neighborhood locations that are destination choices, we're going to see people all over the place, which is a beautiful aspect of this. You want to talk about some of the things you're doing in some of the neighborhoods? I know you're doing some things up at Shaker Square. And
Great point. So we're trying to take into account, as you said, all of Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Certainly you concentrate certain things on where people are physically staying. So the hotels are downtown in University Circle largely, but people are going to be in Shaker Square, and they're going to be in Tremont, and they're going to be in Gordon Square. So we're working on beautification in those areas. We just work with Scott's Miracle Grow. We got them to plant at their cost, their folks, a beautiful garden in downtown at Willard Park, but they also did one Shaker Square. They also did one at across from the West Side Market. So we got donated about 250 beautiful planters that are going to be downtown the week of the convention. After that, they're all being donated to different neighborhoods. So excuse me, critically important that, as you said, this is not just about downtown, this is about all of Cleveland.
All of Cleveland. This is an exciting time, not just for the city of Cleveland or our region, as we would say, but the entire state of Ohio. If you really were thinking about, if you think about it in this manner, the state of Ohio, which is the, we always say the road to the White House goes through Ohio. And to have us finally have this here says a lot about the community, but also about the state. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, and the state's been very involved in a couple ways. One, Jobs Ohio, which is the state's economic development arm, they of the dollars we had to raise, they put in $10 million, and that would have gone to any Ohio city
that would have
gotten either a Democratic or Republican convention. But they thought it was that important for future business development. But we're working with them on a number of areas to highlight business in Northeast Ohio and businesses throughout Ohio. So as all these big decision makers, as all these influencers come to town, how do we make sure that they know about the great businesses that we have, and if they want to relocate, if they want to start new businesses, we're going to have them meeting with our CEOs, meeting with the mayor, meeting with lots of influencers, so they get a sense of what a great place this would be. We can't miss that opportunity. We are going to have influencers here. The number of people who will be here whose wealth starts with a B, these billionaires who will be here, hey, it's a chance to get them to invest in our city in the future. So we have to do everything we can, and the state's been working with us on that.
Absolutely. And then I want to move a little bit to the business side. One of the things that both our Secret Service lead agents, Ro and Leah, set up, one of the first committees that they said was, hey, I want a business and community impact committee, which both of us go to on a regular basis, because we want a location and an opportunity that when businesses have questions, all the things we're going through right now. How do I get my deliveries? What's the hard zone? What's the soft zone? What's an event zone? Why is the entire city of downtown Cleveland an event zone? And we talk about that, and we talk about the good side of this. Can you just talk a little bit from the tourism side as to why this is good for downtown businesses? Because I know we do it from a business economic impact side, but I think to hear from you a little bit more in terms of the delegates that's coming, the services that's needed, why do hey, you want your doors open, restaurants will be filled. Can you just go into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so again, we're going to have not only all of our 5,000 downtown hotel rooms full, but we're going to have these other 50,000 people who are going to be here.
Feels good to say 5,000 downtown hotel rooms.
4 years ago, that was 3,000.
We couldn't say that. We were stretching it, but go ahead. Sorry.
And then every day, all the delegates, everybody's going to be down here. And what we know from our research is the perception of Cleveland for people who have never visited versus those who have is dramatically different. When people come here, when they see it for themselves, their perception is elevated tremendously, as much, if not more, than any other city in the country. So we know these people are going to see it for themselves. So we want to make sure we don't look like a ghost town. We want to make sure we look as welcoming as possible, and that every business is ready to go, is up and running. Now, we can't promise every business is going to have a banner week. Some will do well, some will do great, some will do okay. But the key is, this is also about what happens to businesses in our community for years to come. So if we grow, let's just take this, let's say we grow convention and meeting business by 20%. Think of how many restaurants and hotels and other businesses that's going to fill in the future, because it's not just about these 50,000, it's about 100,000 more that will be coming every year.
Absolutely. And we've done this before. I mean, we have something coming up right before the convention. I know we're focused on RNC, but you have the transplant games.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that, why that's important?
Yes.
The purpose of the transplant games, and the importance and the relevance to having a major conference in town prior to something as magnitude as the RNC.
Yeah, and transplant games, there's a couple really important relevant things. One, it's an amazing event. Most people haven't heard of it. It's called Transplant Games of America. It's basically, the best way to think of it, an Olympics for people who have had organ transplants. And it's economically huge for the city. It's going to bring in almost 10,000 people. It'll bring in almost $10 million into the city. And it's starting, it'll be held just a few weeks before the convention. And it's such a remarkable event because it's not so much about who wins the 5K race, but it's about the person crossing the finish line who had a heart transplant.
Who was here to run the 5K race. Absolutely.
And standing at the finish line are the parents of the child whose heart is in that person. I mean, it is
very emotional.
Very emotional.
Very, very
But what's also pretty cool is that Cleveland, over the last 10, 12 years, has become one of the hottest places in the country for hosting major events. So think about the gay games and the National Senior Games and the Women's Final Four. Not only were those held in Cleveland, they were extremely successful here. So we really touted that to the RNC, that if you come here, we know how to do this.
We know how to do this.
We have put these things on. They've been more successful in Cleveland than in other places. It also, I think, it should give everybody in our community confidence that this just didn't happen when we got the RNC. This happened over years as we've started to prove to the world that we are the best place to host these types of events.
And a partnership of the community coming together. I mentioned this to someone before when we went through the first bid and we didn't get it. We were in 2006 trying to host the 2008 RNC. And we sat down with some of the same people that's here. Jeff Larson was here and others and said, hey, what could we do better? And it was, you have to have more hotels downtown. You have to have more venues that people can go to. Talk about why that is important, because I think that I want to, if possible, instill in the viewers at home, if you're in the service industry, you're in the #1 industry right now. You know, why is that so important? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Well, very important, I think, that you learn from your mistakes. We've all been through it in life. And so we talk about all these wonderful events that have been here. For everyone we've gotten, there have been 4 or 5 who said no and chose. And every time you want to ask them, what, just like you said, what could we have done better? And you learn. And so the other attempts that we've had to try to bring in a political convention, every time we learned, and that really informed our bid for the 16 event. And I think, as you said, it's the same thing with the service industry. Ultimately, we're here to please. We're here to try to make people happy. That's our job. That's right. And so every time, every one of these 50,000 people, they're our customer.
Yes,
and we want to make sure that we treat them well, that they spread the word. No different. If you work in a restaurant, you treat people well, so they're going to tell their friends, you need to go there. And
now let's talk a little bit. I know volunteers is very, very important to us. But there's a reverse psychology to this volunteerism thing. I always tell people that this is your opportunity to be front and center in greeting the VIP. You never know who you're going to see come through the airport or at one of the restaurants. You want to talk a little bit about the opportunities for volunteering?
Yes. Volunteers are critically important for us. It's a major job of this community to recruit and manage almost 5,000 volunteers. Right. Now, what these volunteers aren't going to do is guide the nominee up to the stage.
You sure?
As far as we know. That's the purview of the Committee on Arrangements. They get very seasoned political people. What are the volunteers that are working for the host committee and on behalf of the community, they're here to welcome all of these folks to Cleveland and make them feel great. They're going to be at the airport. They're going to be at all the main hotels. They're going to be all over the streets of Cleveland. And their job is to smile, to welcome them, to give information. All the volunteers will be trained, they'll be given shirts, they'll be given bags, and they are ambassadors. That's their #1 job.
And you've got a great plan going on, I believe, that really will highlight local Clevelanders and our welcoming message that we're doing. You want to talk about the We the People campaign that you have going on?
Yes, so we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we always say we look, act, and feel absolutely the way we should when the convention's here. Some of it is volunteers and faces, some of it is signage all over the community. So we did one where we're going to have street pole banners all over the city and other signs that we entitled "We the People Welcome You to Cleveland." Obviously a play on exactly. However,
we all know what that means.
We all know what that means, even though we're apolitical. It's not. But we have pictures of 50 Clevelanders, and their faces are going to be prominently displayed throughout, and that's what this is about. It's not about Valarie or David or the mayor walk. It's about all the people of our city throughout, and we want to show the world who we are, and who we are is about our people.
And I think that's important, and I think that will resonate. It reminds me of the art project we're doing along the red line that eventually will grow to the blue and the green line, and how we have artists. I was coming in from the airport last week and seeing the artists up there painting some of the art. It is going to be fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing with Land Studio? I know we talked about it last week at the beautification, but I think this would be
You brought up great points, because there's so many different projects going on, and again, they're not being done just for the convention.
Absolutely.
They're being done to make sure they're finished in time for the convention, but every one of these projects will be for Clevelanders for many years to come. So as you mentioned, you have the beautiful Red Line Art Project that you've been the patron saint of. You have the Rock Box Project, which will be a cool public art project up and down East 9th Street related to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and speakers that'll play music. Land Studio, a nonprofit organization, is bringing in this artwork from Europe, these crazy little animals that'll be all over downtown. And again, they just get people's curiosity. They make for a better visitor experience. But you do all those plus the trees that are being planted and the sidewalks that are being fixed. And again, it's going to make Cleveland look and shine. And you've always talked about the spit polish. It's you know, look, when we invite friends and family over for dinner, you vacuum, you clean up.
Right.
But the nice thing is, exactly. Or if it's Thanksgiving, you paint. But you know what? It's not just about that, but that paint stays there.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of it's a reason for us just to make sure we look our absolute best. And the best news is all of that stays here for all of Clevelanders to enjoy afterward.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to maybe just share some closing thoughts. And while you're gathering those, I just want to point out, because we're talking about the projects, what would be interesting will be take note of the projects that haven't even started yet and how that is going to just like take off post the convention, you know? So that's going to be, in terms of your point about lasting beyond the convention, why we always say this isn't just a downtown thing. This is a City of Cleveland event. This is a community-wide event, and we're excited about it. So before we wrap up, David, any closing remarks, anything
well, I'd say
you want to leave with our viewing public?
If people still want to volunteer, we'd still love volunteers. You can go to www.2016cle.com. Very easy button to press and sign up, and then you can actually go pick a specific shift in a specific place, so that's great.
But they should go to the website anyway, because you have all kind of
They
information.
should. You can sign up for a community newsletter.
Awesome.
We've created new tours and videos that we're pushing out to all the people coming in, really cool stuff about Cleveland. But I think the biggest point in all this, and we've said it from the beginning, and you just touched on about the projects going forward, what we can't afford to do as a community is think we got this convention, we can pat ourselves on the back, and now we're all good. Actually, this means we have to work twice as hard.
Absolutely.
We now have a tool that we didn't have before, and we can use that tool for the future growth of Cleveland.
This isn't the ribbon cutting. This is the groundbreaking on future development.
That's exactly right.
Well, David, I really do appreciate you taking time. You know, I'm going to bug you a little bit because I believe the viewing public want to maybe hear more about, you know, what's happening closer to the convention, which is how many days away?
From where we are now, it's 42 days till it starts and 47 till it's over.
See, I knew you knew that by heart. And so we want to come back and visit this, but then actually afterwards, would love to sit back down with you and let's do some self-reflection on, you know, what we did, what we should be focusing on, and how this, again, becomes our groundbreaking to the future.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you being here.